Recording. Chilly here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Moon Hour Mercury Day. Moon is applying to conjoin Neptune Ascendant, applying to conjoin Venus Midheaven, applying to Rahu. Jupiter in the second house exalted. One of the teachings that I ran into, and I'm going to begin with the little mantra. Love is patient, love is kind. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. And this is taken eclectically from the spiritual teachings and adapting what is right, what is fit, what is supporting life, and lovingly letting go in the spirit of Louise Hay, who was a Christian priestess and holistic healer, and talked about how our relation with God needs to support our well-being. Pragmatically, in the world where Islam and Judaism has genitalia mutilation, and in Christian denominations, the Catholics were persecuting everyone. The reminder that love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil but rejoices in truth, means love abolishes inquisition. And I was talking about stories of creation. Now I'm going to connect that with another teaching that I found, and this is shout out to Catherine Mussel, the connection between the fascia and manifestation. Fascia, Shiva Shakti, which is honoring feminine, honoring masculine, and the manifestation. Now, like I said, I have ancestors Jews, and I do have Halux Vagus. This connects with Moon Neptune entirely to the story of creation and to Genesis, because Halux Vagus is blocking the cleansing of the fascia, blocking the fascia and the lymph nodes around the pelvic floor. And that can create difficult to manifest, lack of faith in life, lack of faith in creation, to disconnect with the divine in whichever form, even a secular. Like I said, pick eclectically. This is fit to people that are looking at it from holistic medicine perspective, from manifestation perspective, or from any perspective. This is also reminding us how a story of creation that talks about a loving union that is only willingly consensual at every time of union, tantrically embodied, between a feminine and masculine, whether within oneself, in self-pleasure, in manifestation, or where people actually have sex with others, is essential to healthy lymphatic nodes and manifestation for those unions to be embodied in tantric and only with will and consent, completely negating rape and slavery. Not only that, not only what people call sex work, that is a form of ritual abuse with forced conversion to supposedly sex work. It's torture and rape. And it affects the frequency of the people around, whether it's the real estate, because a home is something that is of that union. A home is not rape. A work is not rape. Rape cannot be a home, and rape cannot be work, and rape cannot be relation. Love is patient, love is kind. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. And the only labor that yields is the labor of love. Um, Whether we sell products to clients, or work at a place, a lot of autistic people that have had, or neurodivergent people that have had difficulty at workplaces, so difficulty to manifest wealth, a lot of that can be to do with the fascia. And I'm really thankful for Catherine Mussel for accentuating on that. Because when people find it difficult to manifest, and one of the exercises is basically to align the hallux valgus, but also to do exercises that support the fascia. And this is again the time to repeat with the mantra, love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. Any religion, any practice, any society has to be supportive of love and of life. Stories of creation cannot be of subjugation. In fact, the subjugation stories bring persecution. But this is also um, a connecting between aligning the hallux valgus, aligning the fascia, or practicing practices that align the fascia. And again, people can look at YouTube, or they can look at trained people that know to assist them with their own medical condition. Yes, I'm a holistic health practitioner, but I don't. I'm not a gym trainer or a. So I stay within what I'm certified to talk about. Um, and this is the combination of the physical exercise, the cleansing of the fluid, the rejuvenation in the lymph nodes. And I'm practicing that with you. Again, I refer you to practices that assist to clean the fascia. The reason I'm not telling you these practices because I may sound authoritative and confident, and you may be more inclined to practice what I say, even though I'm not trained to give you physical exercise. So I refer you to people that can consider your medical conditions and adapt professionally such exercises to you. You don't have to tell them about what mantra you say. You don't have to tell them about any of these things. Particularly if you are under religions that are oppressive towards the feminine and create traumatizing birthing stories. Now, again, of course, what I'm saying is not said in vacuum. Very, very important to accentuate that, because these topics are so tender and so sensitive, and yet it's important to talk about this. It's important that there are many people that will probably say, oh my gosh, I wish someone would have made the connection to me. between my fascia, my hallux valgus, my ancestry or my family growing upon Genesis, and the environment in my workplace and my challenges in manifesting, let's say, wealth to support life. If people bring babies, also the baby's life, but also it's a relational. The lymph nodes are relational. I hear people that were screaming for epidural and they were not heard. And that can have to do with we don't know that particular nurse, what story of creation is guiding that particular nurse and her decision or his decision. Do they believe that birth should be is like punishment? And by the way, even in First Nations, and I say this not for the sake of me. For the sake of me, I don't have to record outside. I say this for the sake of people that I am 42. I do not have children. Like I said, I have ancestors Jews. I don't support the genitalia mutilation. And in Christianity, I did not see really, really honoring of this tantric embodiment and union. And in, let's say, Indian tradition, there is caste system, which is, and I'm actually grateful for Indian women that told me, hey, even as much as the Bhagavad Gita goes and describes the qualities of the feminine, women are not treated well in praxis in the culture. And so, and I also want to emphasize that spirituality is a framework. Of course, the praxis is important, but the Huguenots, some of them were convert Jews, some of them were Christian, and they converted to Protestant. And they said uh, they changed some of the Bible, but they did not denounce completely things what to do with the feminine. And yet the women, Huguenot women, enjoyed more freedom in their praxis. But the scripture was not aligning with that. And they were still massacred and persecuted. And which is a good time to remind that love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. And in truth, love does not need to torture to convert, definitely not to the consciousness of love. Inquisition is unchristlich. And spiritual warfare is inquisition. Love that is actually loving is prerequisite to life, to conception. Now it's time for me to bring in angelica oil, and I'm going to use the stuff prepared with angelica oil. Um, we think about the skin. We also think about our environment. Because the boundary between our environment is our environment supportive of life in spirit and in matter and in praxis. So I'm with you learning here, connecting the notion of a tantric embodiment. There can only be a union of love. And for a union of love, we need to honor erotic and non-erotic. What is Tantra? Is the union of the non-erotic in an embodied experience, the joy of the breathing, and then the when people tend into the erotic, that joy of presence that becomes a sensual joy becomes erotic. And it becomes erotic together with that, what people would call agape love or non-erotic love. And that is a manifesting force. When people think about why Tantra, basically benevolent manifestation with the breathing, with the sexual energy, with the orgasm. Completely antidoting the type of manifestation that is done by violence. And we think about orgasm and birthing, it's entering a state of not psychosis and being safe and free to be able to trust ourselves, the environment, whether it is around the birthing, whether it's around the hospital, whether it's around the partner, doesn't go with intelligence based on treason, but intelligence based on embodied psychic awareness. Which means that no mission can justify raping people. Those that rape people lose land. They lose the yield on the real estate because what happens? They have to, they enter a situation where nothing is enough. Why nothing is enough? Because they're raped. And the people are recovering from being raped. This is something that they might want to consider as how do they adapt to this, or if it is resonating with them. Because a lot of the spiritual workings behind the acts of rape or behind evil were basically aligning with normalizing slavery or normalizing birthing as punishment or subjugation relations between the feminine and masculine. And feminine is children, the feminine is what was the conquered people. Is colonialization relations. But not just with other people, but with the people and their relation with God. So, aligning the fascia and rewriting Genesis, rewriting creation story. And remembering that love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil but rejoices in truth. It means we cannot lie to ourselves. We cannot be expected to lie to ourselves and our partner. And we cannot be expected to tolerate evil. Because love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. When you date a person, what is the creation story that they believe in? They tell, I'm scientific, I'm not creationalist. Yes, but what about manifestation? So many people go to secret societies to learn manifestation. And they do acts of treason in one another. This affects, it causes birth rate decline and even lack of will to have relations and children. Covenants that are still founded about these stories of creation. Um, it's a grand missing. And in such a situation, people can feel that they're doing everything and it's still not yielding. It's because those were the grand missings. Even story of Lilith is a story of an exiled feminine, but in a real creation story, Lilith would never be exiled for not being the woman that for being a woman that would not be subjugated. In fact, the loving union, is between two sovereigns, and this embodied union within self, feminine, masculine, is essential to sense of self. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil but rejoices in truth. This is essential to sense of self. Okay, rape creates psychiatric situations such as deed that is used to mind control. And then people have what looks like psychosis. They basically connect with the psychic senses by torture and violence rather than by embodied sense of self that is also loving and truth. Okay, because love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It is also scientific methodology. When we talk about the psychology and science, the scientific endeavor to see where challenges do not overwhelm us so much that we lose curiosity and a wish to um, continue and resolve issues that come up. And that is facilitated by the fascia and by the notion that love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil but rejoices in truth. It allows us to see beyond challenges and to envision and manifest solutions. It allows us, when we think about mental health, we think about expanding, about breathing deeply, about expanding our horizon, about relaxing our nervous system, about responding adaptively. These stories of creation, Neptune accentuates the myth of creation, where in that point where it is, and also the astrology and the divination. It is to support life. Femicide ist unchristlich. Anything that harms the fascia is also a scientific bias and a spiritual bias. The emphasis on the physical motion that facilitates drainage of the lymph nodes and facilitates a manifestation. Our policies, our regimes must support that. Our health infrastructure must support healthy fascia. Our environment, our culture. Yes, if we think about taking a walk and doing such exercise in a public garden, or taking the time at work to take a walk and to align the fascia, must be a part of the schedule, because how will we provide for a family if people cannot have family because the fascia is stagnant? And if the stories of creation and the beliefs and the spiritual beliefs are causing that stagnation, like I said, I have hallux valgus. My mother has hallux valgus, parents Jews. My biological father has hallux valgus, parents Jews. Genesis, read Genesis. It's not the story of creation, it's the story of stagnation. It was advanced as per sacrificing children. But the fact that it was a lesser evil is not suffice. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil but rejoices in truth. Subjugation of the woman is evil. Birth as punishment is evil. Now, of course, the Bible and Genesis give us the thistle. Amazing. But they also tell us that, in a roundabout way, they tell us that when there's no subjugation relations, and when the sexuality, the people actually both want it, and we see it when we see that if the man is responding to the eroticism of the woman, and they both want it, or if the masculine is responsive to the eroticism of the feminine, why? The masculine creates an environment by presence for the feminine to relax in, even in self-pleasure, to be able to experience the loss of control, the vocality, the not being afraid to look and sound ridiculous during orgasm is basically a practice of birthing and manifestation, regardless of gender, regardless of sex, and emphasizing important that cisgender men, cisgender women cannot be annihilated either. Now, when we think about a woman is giving birth and there is, let's say, a tribe of women next to her, basically she's going into uncontrollably, not having to be ashamed to orgasm profoundly loudly, profoundly going within. I listen to birth stories of women. They're saying some women, for example, in countries where is good health services, like Iceland. And some of them had even gas mask, not gas mask, oxygen mask. This is a form of gas. For several hours, they basically were not speaking, and they were going within. And to be able to do that, whether nurses, whether hospital, whether other women, they basically it's to orgasm in public. And to be able to go into that embodied, to address the challenges that come up, all the worries of everyone. For example, in Netherlands, a woman has to be in certain level of advanced towards the opening before she can administer in hospital. And 3-4 hours later, she's expected, unless there are like really serious complications, to go outside of hospital. And many women are not, the good thing, women are not required to go to hospital. They can have home births, which is why a lot of women actually appreciate Netherlands. And she doesn't know which hospital she will give birth in until. Now, in every health system, there are things to improve, but also, when we think about the fascia, and we think about the ability to manifest, and we think about love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. This type of, and a creation story that is not of subjugation form, but a loving tantric union, at every union, it goes without saying. Any currency system that is negating is based on creation stories that are different, is not compatible with love, with life. And therefore, the currency begins to not yield. Either the currency is very strong, but people cannot buy food, as was in Spain prior to the looting of the silver by the Dutch East India. Then a Balgadi. Yes, and then before Vogue, before the half moon, they brought the silver. Oh no, not before. They basically brought silver. They took gold, they brought silver. Even zero usury bank will not sustain without creation story that is in praxis honoring love. Yes, sex trafficking is not honoring of love, and the real estate acquisitions around this type of money laundering does not yield. It creates housing crisis, currency crisis. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. That's the truth. Even when we think about defense, The art of war cannot negate life. What do I mean by that? People cannot rape and expect it to defend. The language. Neptune in tropical areas also accentuate the name and the namings. How do we name our genitals? How do we name the act of love? The act of love needs to be actually loving. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. Supportive of the fascia. Practices of embodiment can assist to align from misplaced arousal going into relaxed arousal. And tantric embodiment. Again, each person adapts what fits for them. Neural uh, rejuvenation. Okay, we think about the vagus nerve, role in healing the nervous system, including retrieval of senses to the limbs, retrieval of movement. These stories of creation are very important. And nothing that negates that can call itself christlich. Our labor, our work, what we do for a living, is supposed to support our fascia. And for people that still have, let's say, hallux vagus, it means that we need extra time to align our fascia, to have faith in life. We need to correct the wrongs in our lineages, both by the creation stories, by the myths that we were living by, of birthing, of creation of the world, of relation between feminine and masculine, yin and yang. And why am I using yin and yang? Because feminine is not all men and women. What if a guy is gay? What if a woman is lesbian? But also, what if it's a cisgender woman and not a trans woman? She also has rights. Trans rights, important, but abolishing ritual abuse is a prerequisite to sense of self. I am that I am is within context of love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. Because knowing who I am, the sense of self, is an atmosphere of love that is actually loving. Also in environment and in culture. Now, Biologically, with culture is referred also to a microbiome. Our immune system and our fascia. When we think about the kidneys, and when we think about the lungs and the breathing, and we think about birthing and creation stories and relation between women and men, and the feminine and masculine. The feminine cannot be subjugated if we want those healthy. Also, the policies, what was governing the policies that were preventing, that were bringing toxins from the environment, even like Chernobyl, they were not within vacuum. It is not to some people, it is to all people. It is not to some genders, it is to all genders. It is not to some bloodlines, it is to all bloodlines. Louis Hay reminds us the role of our consciousness and our mantras, what we say repeatedly. The story of creation reminds us that we need that each and every one of us is to write their own story of creation in a way that is honoring feminine, masculine, yin and yang, of no subjugation relations. Not between us and God, not between people and people, not between peoples and peoples. If we want the fascia to align, individuals, this, and Neptune reminds us of what cannot be sacrificed. And those who tried to sacrifice the people using Genesis or the tree of life, or bringing cows not from the embodied falling into trust and orgasmic birthing experience, so the challenges that it brought on the lineages and their wealth consolidation. And the persecution that it brings about. And how it was undermining any legacy that they wished to create and any intergenerational wealth, securing their children and children's children. This is not irreversible. And here we are thinking about not redemption as torture and rape as salvation, but a story of creation that is not subjugating and aligning the fascia to business models that support sense of self and sovereignty for every single person. Every single person has their own name, their own legacy, their own lineage. Even the will to live, the will to stay here, the will to have children, that the prerequisite to building the ability to contain life within and outside, the ability to orgasm, the environment needs to support the housing that people live. Of course, if people live crunched and crowded, then the nervous system is overwhelmed and they cannot even hear an orgasm coming from a building next to. But what does it trigger? It triggers the need to have housing that is built for life, not for slavery. And also, it's not just about the woman having her own land. Of course, she needs her own land. But also the man, if they separate, he needs his own land. He needs a place where he can connect with the land that contains him and create his matrilineal issues. Oh, okay. I'm supposed to have. Let me see.
יותר מאחד היה?
תנסי לראות עכשיו.
את יודעת, אני זוכרת את הכאב, ואני לא יכולה, את מבינה מה אני מתכוון?
כן.
את הרגשת שיוצא?
כן, בואי נראה. אני רוצה... אוקיי, it's still, אז אני לא יכולה עם פינצטה, זה קטן מדי.
אז מה עושים?
I don't know. אני אשים לך לבנדר בינתיים.
איך?
אני אשים לך לבנדר בינתיים.
אני לא רוצה, זה עוזר?
Of course, אני רק צריכה למצוא את זה.
איפה תמצא?
הנה. And try to always make sure that in my big mess, my essential oils are available.
מה זה עושה?
Not now, recording. זה יעזור להוציא את זה. Lavender. So of course, when essential oil comes to me, remember to use it. And lavender. Lavender I used when we did a meditation in my workplace, and we were concentrating on ourselves, what we want to build for ourselves, and our vision for the business. Very lovely practice. And I used lavender essential oil, and immediately I received for to study the second course of aromatherapy. It was during COVID, and of course the fifth vital sign was one of the things that, and here's the thing, in environment, medical environment, and managing health systems where the economy is such that people are exposed to such things as a horror, such as we heard with the court case. Um, of course, the desensitization that when something that's considered life-saving harms the fifth vital sign, people don't stand their ground immediately. It's a part of the implication of my thesis on the body-mind question. When we think about emergence, when we think about the posture of our body and how does it support to align the fascia or not? In fact, one of the advertisements I saw for fascia exercise was tell me you have issues with lymphatic drainage and a pelvic floor without telling me. And they pointed to the hallux valgus, to the big toe. And then I learned more about the fascia, fascia clearing, and fascia manifestation. And I'm like, oh, well, my ancestors are Jews. They grew to Genesis. When they wanted to become better people and read the scriptures and be spiritual, this is what they would turn to. And then my mother saw that people don't marry from love and it doesn't work from them, or don't have children from love and it doesn't work for them. And I paid even attention to the sexuality. The sexuality is so beautiful, but why are people so sexually violent? It doesn't make people want to date people. It doesn't make people definitely not to have children. Aligning that now, when you begin to align hallux valgus, the neck begins to release. And some people may even feel like they're releasing those breaths that are birthing breaths. Of course, they sound like something else. They don't sound like, of course, it's basically releasing the orgasmic self that was stagnant, that was stuck because it's a manifestation. And of course, the housing needs to support a healthy fascia. Think about when people align, do holistic way of aligning like their toes, or then they have the screams and they have the moans and the orgasmic self comes out and the emotions, and it's a part of releasing trauma. And think about if their environment is not adapt to that, then it is re-traumatizing. We expect the people to have children, but we don't house them in a way that they can give birth. Of course, birth is loud. Tending to our inner child is wonderful. Honoring the non-erotic is a prerequisite to be able to even begin to think about the erotic. But the environment needs to honor the erotic as well. A child cannot grow to a man or woman or whatever gender without that environment, without that housing. That, by the way, ecosystemically, solar panels on the roof making water from the air, solutions are so simple and so affordable. Communication can only come when sense of self is honored. Think about Habermas, listening to everybody and taking them into account, the actually accommodating for them. The prerequisite is sense of self. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil but rejoices in truth. Fantastic. How? Align the fashion. And maybe we can try even to do this mantra while aligning fascia. And when people have toes misaligned, it's also aligning the toes. Love is patient, love is kind. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. No, I feel that this actually, the exercise is more embodiment. And we need to allow, I'm not going to do it right here, but to be vocal, to voice, which is releasing the body-mind stagnation of traumas that negated life. And here's the thing, when the world is worried and wants to double its population by 2, it cannot cry about this not being realistic, as those are the reasons that people do not want to have children when they don't. If a person is trying to practice, let's say, the exercises for orgasmic birthing, which is orgasming loudly, and the neighbors complain, but they push a baby almost to shove him to, oh, here, hold the baby. How does, from holding the baby, this it's not an ostrich that brings. And with what partner? Oh, people can have IVF and so on. Amazing. How are they going to give birth? Yes, there is orange oil and so on. Amazing. It deepens the breathing to do what? Let's bring orange oil. We don't just talk about orange oil, we also smell orange oil. Okay, this one's was a consecration of Jupiter in Cancer, so it has some ylang ylang in it. Oh, oh, oh! It tastes like rum that you put in cakes. I think it has something either vanilla or chocolate essential oil. And the orange is, of course, adding the in-breath. Before I was in between, when I was in between houses, I was traveling to Netherlands and I received a lot about the natural birth. For the first time, I saw a woman kneeling to give birth. I think it was in a shower, and where the baby comes out, and the blood and so on. And I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. Well, the environment has to support life. Of course, it's both tending to our inner child, but for the